am joined by the big man that's holding it down in South Beach, Bam Adebayo. Welcome to NBA Today, my friend.
Before she would become the host of NBA Today on ESPN, Malika Andrews was just a young girl trying to find her way in California. Welcome to Before the Accolades.
You also, Malika, are one of the rising stars of ESPN, and it is her birthday, everyone.
Malika Rose Andrews, born January 28, 1995 in Oakland, California. Shout out to the Bay. She grew up a fan of her hometown basketball team, the Golden State Warriors.
Going to Warriors games was part of what I did growing up, and it was part of the language that I used to communicate with my dad. I think that sports, maybe over anything else, was an interest that we had in common.
And Malika also played sports herself growing up, but not the most popular sports.
My actual playing of sports, that did not take the form of basketball. I was a skier, horseback rider, volleyball player.
Fun fact, a lot of people may not know, Malika Andrews is actually part Jewish because of her mother, and she even had a bar mitzvah growing up. And it was also around that same time and same age range when Malika was going through a lot internally. In middle school, Malika suffered from anxiety, depression, and just anger issues. And she couldn't pinpoint what exactly was causing these issues.
Honestly, it was a combination of things. It's still hard for me to talk about a little bit. I think that, there were some specific factors that I think made things hard for me. But then I also think that for some reason, I started to kind of have a need maybe to be seen or to be heard that I didn't feel that I was getting, and it didn't make total sense because I grew up in a family where we had dinner together every night without fail. My dad, my mom, they showed up for my school activities, but for some reason in that point in time, I just felt like that for whatever reason, it wasn't enough. There was something that was missing and I couldn't figure it out, and I got really angry. People would keep asking me, well, why? What happened? What haven't you told us? I didn't have a good answer to that question. And I took it out on my mother, on my father, my mother especially.
It would all come to a boiling point in 8th grade when Malika would be kicked out or dropped out, depending on what source you read, of Oakland's Head Royce School. And all the stress she was going through would cause Malika to also suffer from an eating disorder. She said it wasn't exactly anorexia, but something very similar to that. But luckily, Malika Andrews was strong enough, had the courage and self-awareness to know and see that she needed help.
So when I was 14, I actually came to her after I got into it with somebody at school, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I need some help.
Her parents and her decided the best choice was to send her off to a therapeutic boarding school in Utah for her high school years. And that was one of the best decisions Malika and her family ever made in their lives. While there, Malika was able to regather and refine herself and refocus. She did so well at the boarding school that she was able to graduate in 2012, a year earlier than she was supposed to. After graduating, she didn't want to immediately rush into college, so Malika spent a year working at her grandfather's civil rights law firm. So after working at her grandfather's civil rights law firm for a year, Malika went on to study communications at the University of Portland. And while at the University of Portland, she worked for her school's newspaper, The Beacon, and she was a sports writer, sports editor, and a chief editor and staff.
I love journalism, and I got into this because sports, I watched sports growing up. I love sports, but my college newspaper, the only opening they had was in sports.
Well, that seems like divine timing or something, because that spot was waiting for you and to help you propel your career. Malika would have success while at the University of Portland. She even wrote one article that would cause the school to add padding to the soccer field. She earned a scholarship from the National Black Journalists Association and would get the opportunity to study at the Sports Journalist Institution. Malika would graduate from the University of Portland in 2017. After graduating college, she did an internship for the Denver Post, and then Malika leveled up and did an internship for the New York Times in their sports department.
When I got to the New York Times, what I loved is that their definition of sports was so loose. I mean, I covered the Stormy Daniels, Donald Trump saga because it played out at a golf course, and that was quote unquote sports.
And she did that for a year. She was making her name in the journalism world, and that would get her hired by the Chicago Tribune. October of 2018, the the rise of Malika Andrews as we know it would begin. That's when she was hired by Christina Douglas of ESPN to be an online writer to cover the Chicago Bulls and Milwaukee Bucks. Malika would do that for about a year, and then ESPN already seen they had a star to work with.
Let me upgrade.
So then they got her over to New York to work with the Knicks and the Nets. And while she was working for the Knicks and the Nets, that's when the coronavirus pandemic would break out.
Coronavirus!
So Malika Andrews went away into the shadows for a little bit during that hiatus like the rest of the sports world. But then, like a lot of other young stars in the NBA themselves did, that bubble was Malika Andrews' breakout.
The bubble really was a launching pad for me. And yeah, on the one hand, it took preparation and work and all of that, but also a little bit of luck to be entrusted with that assignment and get to run with it.
Her coming out party to America. In the 2020 NBA bubble, Malika Andrews would make history. And at the time of this recording, she was the youngest sideline reporter ever for ESPN at the age of 25.
Malika Andrews is standing by with Zion Williamson. Malika.
Am I supposed to be looking at somebody?
You can look at me. Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Social distance, we're all getting used to it.
She was all over the TV screen during the NBA bubble. And that's when ESPN knew it's time to make her one of the future faces of this network. Since then, Malika's just continued on an upward trajectory. Like I said earlier in the video, she's now the host of NBA Today on ESPN.
You still got to pinch me when you say I have a show on ESPN.
She continues to inspire a lot of other young journalists, a lot of other women, a lot of other black girls around the world to also believe and inspire and see that they can also have a prominent role in sports as well. You know Malika Andrews is out here killing it because ESPN was like, you know what, fuck it, hire her sister too.
Is that my watch? Yeah.
Yes.
That's my watch. That is my watch.
If we could get two of them, or if she's even just half of what Malika gives us, we winning. ESPN, I see what y'all doing, but that's all your boy, the Big Potato, got for you on this episode of Before the Accolades, brought to you by Versace Boy ENT. Hit that like, subscribe button for me, please, before you dip out, and let me know who you want to see on the next Before the Accolades.